I've been hooked on this guy's story as he's progressing through Classic Plus. This has been an amazing journey. I want to see him struggle. I want to see him become better.
Alright, so when you're someone who's new to World of Warcraft like me, there is a point in your first playthrough when you come to learn that this game is almost set up to trick you. Across my first steps through Azeroth so far, I've already been through a lot, from discovering the various human starting zones, to stumbling into tragic quest lines, to tanking my first dungeon and getting a sneak peek at how deep the strategy and combat can go. By now, my journey from level 1 to 30 has taken roughly 60 hours of gameplay, so at this point I thought that I knew what this game had to offer. Normally that's the case, right? I mean, normally if you sink 60 hours into a video game, you should have a pretty good grasp of the game you're playing, but I've come to learn that is not the case for World of Warcraft.
Brother, I literally discovered something new a couple of days ago playing about World of Warcraft. And that's crazy. I went to the Undercity with my friend. We played together. We leveled some characters. And we went into the throne of the king where Arthas, you know, completely decimated his father. And there was this entire great cinematic in Warcraft 3 and all of that. And my friend were like, look at the ground. There are like blood spatters on it. And I'm like, what? I zoomed in and I saw it. They were there. It was so crazy. And it may sound so little and insignificant, but my mind was blown at the moment. As someone who's a deep lore nerd, and I know that this guy is like me as well, man, this stuff is just insanely good.
It turns
it's
out
those
in
tiny
classic
details.
WoW, when a player hits 30 for the first time, that is the moment this game gets turned on its head, because for however big you thought the world was, now is when you are sent all across the sprawling 2 continents of the map to see how truly large the scale goes. However good you thought the quests were, this is when you get to see even more that send you on bigger and more important adventures than anything you'd seen yet. And to top it all off, this is the point when Classic WoW even managed to fix the one critique I've had for this game. I was always sold on going all the way to 60, but my experience post 30 really showed that there's no way I can stop now. It's a story I can't.
My experience post 30 would probably be back pain.
Can't wait to tell you all today, but before we get into all of that,
I'm coming close to it.
Okay, so today's sponsor is exciting for the channel because this video is sponsored by the ultimate free-to-play game you all know and love.
I respect the hustle. I respect the hustle. I'm not going to skip the ad. It's fine. It's fine.
Devices and PCs,
it is what it is, boys.
Featuring a truly insane number of collectibles. Where
I guess it is what it is. Succeeding you, fodder, exactly. It was so good. I heard that if you turn on the ambience to maximum and turn off everything else, you can literally hear the scene being recycled.
Is the classic game we all know and love. I was first sponsored by them many years ago.
It was so good.
Unironically checked in on the game since then because
I really need to replay Warcraft 3.
It's the perfect
I'll probably do it.
Stuck out in public.
I'll probably replay Warcraft. Damn.
Raid just launched their latest.
Is that a good idea? Is that something you would be interested in? Watching me play like Warcraft 3?
Limited time event dungeon.
Reforged? Obviously, I don't think you can play the old one really.
Not only that,
if we play Warcraft Reforged with Frozen Throne, would you guys like that?
Just by logging
would that be interesting content? Because I never finished it.
Afterward and you will get even
I literally never finished it. I need to finish it.
You don't need to wait that long for a powerful
and I think I can download it again. I have the old codes.
Or scan the QR code on screen.
I'm pretty sure it's like applicable.
The legendary Cardo Fox Hunter right away. You'll get top ore from the Orc faction when you reach level 15. And if you are a new player,
didn't Age of Conan get an engine update
in the game? Grand Oak Padraig. This guy is widely considered one of the strongest legendaries in Raid since he's basically
who is this Malfurion wannabe?
Entire team stronger every turn. He's only available though if you are downloading the game via my custom link down below or scanning the QR code on screen and then using code WRATH within 48 hours after your download. You actually could choose to unlock any one of these 6 champions on screen right now using any of their respective promo codes if you would prefer to get somebody else. But I would just take Padraig because you can only choose one and he's the best. If my League days have taught me anything, it's that you should be scared to not follow the meta.
He was a League of Legends player.
If you've somehow not tried Raid yet, give them a shot.
We started curing him.
It seriously helps support the channel. And thank you very much to Raid for sponsoring this episode. But now, back to the video. Alright, so
Thank
we
God.
last left our series off when I hit level 30 in Duskwood, and a guildmate messaged me letting me know that I should go do the Whirlwind Axe Warrior class quest. Of course, I was a little bit sad to receive this message because it meant I had other things to do before I was allowed to get back to my fishing grind. I was still stuck at 150 and felt pretty eager to unlock whatever I needed to level further, but I was happy to have a new task to chase, not realizing how hard this task was about to be. I flew off to Stormwind first to wrap up any errands I had before heading over to my class trainer. In particular, I spent a little bit of time trying to level my mining, blacksmithing, and also maxed out my first aid up to 150, since you guys let me know I should try to not fall too far behind on the profession grind. While I was here running through the streets, I also tried to pick up any new quests that I saw, since if last episode taught me anything, it was that so many of the great quests in this game start from unassuming beginnings. But after that, I finally went off to the warrior class trainer to begin what was about to be a very long journey. So Wu Shen tells me, now that I've hit level 30, it's time for me to prove my worth as a warrior.
Yeah, he's gonna get a whirlwind axe.
There's an island off the coast of the Barrens where warriors meet to test their skill. I should go there and speak to the chief warrior, who will have a special challenge I'm now ready to face. He gave me some instructions on how to reach this island, but I could tell this was going to be a somewhat monumental task, since none of the named places in the directions given appear to be anywhere in the...
Oh my god, he's playing without the add-on. I forgot therefore to say, oh, that good luck, brother. Well, I guess he can technically ask player and they would just give him the answer, but if he'll try to find it on his own, base.
Eastern Kingdoms. For almost my entire journey from level 1 to 30, I've been pretty exclusively stuck in the first 4 human starting zones, all in the southern part of a single continent. These areas were already pretty large and diverse to a point that they felt huge on their own. It made the few times I flew up to Ironforge feel like a massive trek that I thought was giving me perspective on how large the world could be. Turns out, I had no idea. After searching my map, I come to find the Barrens is a region off in Kalimdor, and this single zone, top to bottom, is as large as the whole distance from Stormwind to Ironforge. Gosh, this is a big zone. I take a flight up to Menethil Harbor, where I remembered from ages ago that one NPC mentioned boats here sail off to Kalimdor, and all along this flight path, I was feeling intimidated that I'm about to go to a zone that's as big as this whole trek my Griffin is taking. When I finally landed, I walk over to the docks, and after waiting around for a while for the wrong boat that would have taken me to a Night Elf zone, I eventually head over and wait alongside some other players, where a ship finally arrives, everybody boards, and we set off to Kalimdor. Now honestly, this little trek was kind of exciting for me because, as you may remember from episode 1, one of the few criticisms I've had of Classic WoW so far is that it doesn't really feel like enough of a follow-up to Warcraft 3. Everything that happened with the human race specifically in that game was fascinating, from the culling of Strathhome to Jaina fleeing to Kalimdor to whatever the hell came of Dalaran after Arthas murdered everybody.
He's actually right about that. He's actually right about that, but it mostly comes down to they just wanted to finish the base world and they never really got to do the story right. They ran out of budget, they ran out of time, it's a known thing, and that's why you have like half of Dalaran not even being there. It's like you have the bubble that's called Dalaran, and that's it, because it wasn't finished. And only when they started to do expansions, that's where the story actually caught on. That's where they started cooking for real. And the game, lore became exponentially better. So I do get this point. He's actually right about this.
I was coming to WoW hoping that I would get to meet some old friends or see familiar places.
Not really.
But so far, most of my time in this game has been spent in or around Stormwind, which is a city that I had never even heard mentioned once before in the Warcraft universe. That's why sailing from Menethil to Kalimdor for the first time and setting foot on Theramore Isle, that reignited my interest in the world. I was gawking at the outpost, wondering if this was the human camp that Jaina set up after the Prophet chose her to lead humanity across this.
You see Thrall and Orgrimmar, and you see Rexxar in Desolus, but it's like he's not going to see that. He's playing a human. He's playing a human warrior. He ain't gonna see them, and I guess he's just going to skip Desolus, maybe. Like, even I skipped Rexxar sometimes. It's just, sometimes you just don't get to meet those characters, and they're few and far in between and well scattered. So it's kind of, the lore isn't really that flashed out. So he does have a point here. Yeah, but if he's amazed by WoW map design, Guild Wars 2 map design would blow his map. WoW takes over Guild Wars 2 map design any time of the day, and it's not even remotely close. And Guild Wars 2 map design is good, but it's filled to the brim with portals and instances, and it will never be as good as World of Warcraft. Literally never.
See, to go and fight Archimon? I don't want
Alliance
to be too much of a lore nerd,
exactly.
but it feels so good to finally get what looked like my first real nod to the game that sold me on WoW in the first place. As I leave the safety of Theramore entering Dustwallow Marsh, I get a sense of familiarity with a nagging thought in the back of my mind that this zone has some kind of significance to me, although something I can't remember yet. I get a little spooked on my trek as I notice that there are some mobs that are way too high of a level for me to deal with them on my own. But that makes it all the more comforting when I then head further down the road and see these encampments of Alliance soldiers staffing nearby towers and tents, providing assistance. That's one of the really cool things WoW does with its faction system, where because the world can feel so dangerous, but certain NPCs will fight alongside you, it honestly feels like a relief anytime I see a friendly soldier nearby who will help if I ever get in a bit of trouble. Like, it genuinely feels real. I am actually quite nervous running through some of these areas, and I feel actual relief when I see an allied camp come across the horizon. Anyway, I follow the street signs that point me toward the Barrens, as well as a sign specifically
He's
noting
reading the
something called
signpost.
the Shady Rest Inn. I wonder if this is a place I might want to set my Hearthstone. After many
Yes.
minutes of hiking, I come to a fork in the road where it looks like the Horde have their own encampment further down. I can only assume that's what these banners signify. And that marks the first point when I realize that
Just
I
go
don't
there,
think
see
I've
for
seen
yourself.
a Horde player in my playthrough yet. Shortly after this fork in the road is when I come across the Shady Rest Inn, which is destroyed? What happened here? I mean, there has to be a story behind this place. I doubt
Yes.
the inn would have had all these signs pointing me toward
And there's a pretty great quest in here too. There is?
it. If there wasn't any significance, I'll have to keep an eye out for any sort of quest associated with this place from here on. Further down the road, though, is where I finally make it to the outskirts of the Barrens and come to see that it really is as intimidating in size as the map suggests. Most of the mobs here are such low levels, they're not really a threat, which gives me some comfort in exploring, so I start heading toward the coastline to scan the horizon for islands. But before I get there, I stumble across a human fort, which I figure I should go explore, thinking maybe this will have a flight point or something to make future travel easier. Except when I search this encampment, I realize there's not really anything for Alliance players here, which must mean that this is a place for Horde players
Yes.
to go and do quests fighting the Alliance. There was something about realizing this that got me feeling giddy. Seeing
Is he playing on an
NPCs
empty
that
server?
are on my side in a war that I know enemy players will be specifically hunting down is so interesting as a gameplay mechanic. Like, if I was playing WoW as a kid and this was a PvP server, I bet I would just be hiding out here for hours waiting for Horde players to be sent on whatever quests so I could go and gank them. That's actually one thing that I feel kind of sad about with my playthrough. I've been able to experience so much of the glory of WoW's golden era by playing vanilla, but I'll never really get to experience however popular the world PvP was back in the day. Anyway, upon realizing there's not much for me to do here, I follow the coastline to try and find some kind of inn to set my Hearthstone or another flight point so I don't have to do this walk on foot again, when I come across my first ever Horde player. Seeing this level 11 undead Jaws filled me with a sense of conflicting emotions. On the one hand, I wanted to wave, say hi, tell him that he's the first Horde player I've ever seen, but on the other hand, I was just fantasizing about this. If I was on a PvP server, I know I would absolutely try to kill him. I wouldn't even care if I got anything out of it. I would just do it for the love of the game. Getting your first PK is always
Base.
a big rite of passage when playing a new MMO. Since this is a PvE server,
He
though,
knows.
Jaws was spared, and I kept heading north until I found a little town where I could set my Hearthstone and pick up my first new flight path on
Always in
Kalimdor.
Ratchet.
This town was pretty fascinating on its own. It seemed to be run by goblins who aren't hostile toward me, but I'm also seeing other Horde players around, which must mean it's a kind of neutral site where both Alliance and Horde are welcome. The dynamics of
You know what's the funniest part about this? If he actually didn't play on a dead server, everyone would have been slash-spitting him. That's always what happens whenever you're an Alliance player stepping in Ratchet. It's just the best thing in the world, and I loved it. It added to the atmosphere. It added to the vibes. It is so good. Guild Wars 2 has top 3 map design in all of gaming? I mean, listen, Guild Wars 2 map design is the only thing that ever came close to classic World of Warcraft for me, and that's a huge compliment. Some zones, especially the starting human areas, like Queensdale, are crazy good. Divinity's Reach is 10 times better than Stormwind, in my opinion. Divinity's Reach clearly took so much influence from Minas Tirith, from Lord of the Rings, and I couldn't be more down for that. It's the best city in any MMORPG I've ever seen in my entire life. But as a whole, WoW Classic still takes the crown for me.
Alliance vs Horde are already so interesting as a gameplay mechanic, so seeing there are also neutral races that I presume are playing both sides of the conflict for the sake of profit, sort of like the smugglers in the Dune universe, that just makes the dynamics of interracial conflict all the more fun. Okay, wait, I didn't mean for it to sound like that. Anyway, after gawking over all this, I eventually realized that this town is named Ratchet, which was part of the directions Wu Shen gave me. Not long after, I was swimming to a few different islands before I finally found the one I was searching for, expecting my long quest for this whirlwind axe was about to come to an end. Upon arriving, I meet up with Clannock MacLeod, who introduces the Affray to me, a challenge where warriors prove their worth by fighting their way through a series of foes, culminating in a final boss named Big Will. I head over to the fight pit to take down the challengers, who don't seem too tough, as the first few are just around levels 26 to 27. It is a little bit tricky because I'm not given much time to heal before fighting the next opponent, but when one orc decides to be a coward, like a dirty horde member trying to run away before I kill him, that gives—
He doesn't represent us. We denounce him, okay? We disavow him. Stop, okay? Stop. He's not one of us. He turned his back on an alliance. Can you imagine the shame? Brother, no one would accept him back home. That's crazy. No way.
Gives me a good chance to reset.
I will not be. I will not tolerate this smear.
A level 33 who is going to be kind of tough for my level 30, but I pop retaliation and use just about every skill I know to the best of my ability, getting the kill with plenty of health to spare. The affray is over, so I walk over to Clannock to finish my quest, anticipating this wild and raucous journey is about to come to an end, only to learn that it is, in fact, just beginning. Okay, so Clannock tells me that I've learned a new stance, Berserker stance, and I should go get a nice weapon to make the most of it. That's going to involve going off to speak with Bothra, the Wind Watcher, a troll hermit who lives between the Alterac Mountains and the Western Plaguelands. I open my map, foolishly thinking that this must be an area on Kalimdor, not requiring that much travel, only to see the place he's referring to is all the way back over in some of the northernmost zones in the Eastern Kingdoms. So I hearth back to Ratchet to take a griffin flight to Theramore, to take the boat from Theramore to Menethil, and then start heading north to chart more unexplored lands. I pass through some weird, huge, half-destroyed bridge to make my first steps into the Arathi Highlands, which is an absolutely gorgeous zone. It's also quite dangerous, as I notice random level 42 elites wandering around. Am I the appropriate level to be doing this?
You'll need to kill him later on, you know that.
In the first place. I keep venturing north, where at one point I see a huge human castle where I think must be another Alliance outpost, only to find out that this place is infiltrated with some kind of hostile syndicate mobs. Okay, I don't know what they are or what they've got going on.
Man, questing here is so fun.
More of them. Do they have their own backstory?
But everyone's competing for them.
I keep heading north and then come to see a massive gate that cuts the land in two, seemingly half destroyed.
Such a good location, dude. This is one of my all-time favorite WoW zones. This is like an A+ tier zone. It's crazy how good it is. I just love plains. Every area constructed of plains is a good one.
Leaving me to wonder what the hell that's all about. I know Lordaeron is to the north of the Eastern Kingdoms, right? So maybe this is like some kind of wall that people erected to try and stop the Scourge back when they were waging war on everyone?
Sure.
Is this like Game of Thrones or something? I mean, that's a story I'd love to hear. I then enter the Hillsbrad foothills, where I find more mysterious human encampments that don't seem like proper towns. At least they don't have flight paths for me, so I wonder what their deal is. Before then, I suddenly stumble on a giant purple marble in the middle of the earth, which I then head toward to find it's Dalaran. I was just saying what happened to the city after Arthas murdered everybody. I'm quite sad that I can't go in to see it for myself, but this is awesome.
Just wait a little longer.
Distracted, and I don't want this video to just be me gawking at the landscape. That's turning into too many of these episodes. So I take a second to reread the instructions telling me I should follow some river north where I should be able to find the troll I'm after. On my way, I fight some more mobs and bump into more of those syndicate guys again before eventually finding the river, heading north and coming across Bothra the Wind Watcher.
Damn, it's so crazy to watch someone doing this as it should have been. Like, it's so good. That's why I love his videos so much, man, because my experience was, I don't want to say ruined, because I had the best time of my life playing WoW Classic for the first time, but I did play with a friend who already knew everything, and I did play with an add-on. I really wished I experienced World of Warcraft like him. I really wished I would do that. I really hope that Classic Plus would give me that opportunity, but I highly doubt it.
Ra acknowledges how far
but I'm so glad he's doing it.
I appreciate, before he then says he'll help me with my quest if
I can
go
live
fetch
vicariously
some
through
items
him.
for him. I just need to collect a few things, and then he'll summon something called the Cyclonian, where if I defeat him, I can gain his Whirlwind Heart that Bothra can use to power a weapon for me, presumably the Whirlwind Axe. Now, I'm going to be honest, this whole adventure running across 2 continents had me a little bit tired, so I didn't read the last line of his quest dialogue telling me he was giving me a piece of parchment explaining where I could get the items I need. I had some work to do or something, so I just logged off.
He's
for
becoming
a
a
bit,
WoW
and then I
player.
logged back on the next
WoW
day.
players don't
I
read.
barthed back to Stormwind to try and buy whatever items were required with the fat gold stack I still had. It was nice to see that I could just buy the life root, but it was less nice to see I couldn't buy any of the other items required. And also, I hadn't picked up any flight points to get back to the troll guy. So I figured that I had to go back to the troll dude, which meant another massive trek all across the world, which was somehow just as fascinating the second time around. This time I came across a weird Forsaken convoy who killed me,
and he died in the process. An Alliance
outpost in Arathi that thankfully had a flight point. It's always good to see the Alliance. The rest of the trek, I saw some more of those Syndicate on my way up the river towards the troll, anticipating I'd be able to ask him where the rest of those items were, or maybe I would just see an obvious clue nearby. But when I finally entered the Alterac Mountains and made it back to Bothra, that was when I saw another warrior doing the quest, which taught me the Cyclonian is such a high level, I can't even see it right now at my current level of 30. I tried to ask this level 60 who was helping the other warrior kill it how exactly I go about getting the other items I need, but
actually asking for information.
I get one little hint when I try interacting with this pot that shows some of the ingredients I need for the Essence of Exile, but that's as far as I get. So I go around just trying to kill nearby mobs to see if anybody drops anything, and when I can't even do that without dying,
wait, they don't tell
I realize
you?
I'm a bit out of my depth, choosing to spirit revive in a new town, South Shore, which, okay, at least there's an inn here and a flight path. Let's catch our breath and reset. Let me just go ahead and address the elephant in the room here. I am the idiot. I am the one that got distracted while playing and didn't notice I was given specific instructions of where to go to get the items I need. And it was my being an idiot that turned an otherwise incredible, fun, adventurous class quest into something that I'm about to be stuck on for a little while. Blizzard, you did nothing wrong. This was all on me.
But that's how you learn. And that's how you become better at the game. And that is the essence of classic World of Warcraft. That is what made the game good. You made mistakes, and you came out stronger because of it. Or you broke, and you might have quitted the game. But those who remained, those who achieved level 60, they earned that. And nowadays, it's simply not the case. You have people reaching 60 not knowing how to do a proper threat pull. Like, they have no idea how to hold threat. And some, like, people don't know about threat regardless. They're just overpulling and they're doing all the damage. It's insane.
However, the good news is that this little roadblock sent me off on an adventure where I was about to discover some even
threat
more
management is non-existent.
interesting quests that were somehow able to top basically everything I'd seen so far. And don't worry, I will eventually open up my bags and see what I'm looking for. But I figured at this point I was going to need to level up if I wanted to get this axe that people keep talking about. I didn't want to cheat and get help from some max level guy who would just kill the Cyclonian for me, at least not if I could help it. At the very least, I should keep playing to a point where I can find out what level the Cyclonian is. So I decided to just get back to questing, starting off by seeing what this new town of South Shore had to offer. server. I spoke to a mage guy who was actually a follow-up quest to that library quest from last episode, where he told me to go and kill some ogres and retrieve some tomes lost in the ruins of Alterac. I spoke to some other citizens who also told me to go kill some ogres and turtles and murlocs roaming around nearby. One interesting quest from a magistrate of South Shore told me to go and slay some of those syndicate people I had seen earlier, as they were apparently suspected in assassinating the previous magistrate. This quest caught my attention because it gave me a pretty big upgrade to my belt slot as a reward, and gearing up might be something that could help me take down that Cyclonian, so I decided to go off and work toward doing that first and foremost. After some searching, I found one of those syndicate camps I passed by earlier and fought my way through, looking for the particular mobs I was meant to hunt down, but it turns out it wasn't these guys I was looking for. They're a bit too low level anyway, although they clearly have their own thing going on. They have some specifically named jailer here alongside an orc that I presume is being held prisoner, that I just killed because he's part of the Horde, of course. That's what a good Alliance member does, right? But once again, I absolutely love this. Just like that human stronghold in the Barrens, it was so cool to see an area.
Well, at least you didn't take him captive and raised him as a baby. You know, that's, I heard that turned some of them to great leaders.
That is specifically not meant for me.
But it creates some problems in the process.
Participate, but that clearly does exist for a reason. Just fleshes out the world further, reminding me there are stories going on that don't have anything to do with me in Azeroth, just like in the real world. Blizzard is just so good at making their world come alive like this. Anyway, I keep on searching further to find another syndicate hold, although this one is too high level for me as I get ganked by a spy. I had no idea I could get ganked by NPCs who would go invisible in this game, but it makes the threat of the world feel pretty intense once again, especially after I die to a few ogres as I'm trying to run away. Thankfully, a friendly dwarf named Hawthorne that was passing by chooses to revive me and helps
wait until he reaches Stranglethorn.
Mobs I was trying to take down. Another great community interaction, especially since he also shared with me that after completing my quest, I could pick up a couple more by searching through the parchment on this table in the middle of camp. Honestly, this surprised me a bit. I can't quite remember if I've experienced this before, but seeing quests that are given out by items that don't even have a quest marker signifying they start a story, that's really interesting. It kind of feels like another choice from the developers to make players care about exploring the world and looking for details they would otherwise miss.
Imagine actually caring about your surroundings and paying attention. That's crazy. Getting quests for maps without no indication whatsoever, that was such a clever addition to the game. Nowadays, you technically have it, but this would be glowing to the point where you'll be blinded by it. So, it just, you have the classic WoW sparkle. Man, they should really remove that garbage. And I know you can do it in the options, it's just, I don't want it existing in the game in the first place.
Those quests caught my attention as apparently those syndicates had left an encrypted letter that I meant to take to a mage in South Shore. I head down to deliver it, turning in the belt quest quickly before then speaking with the mage, who tells me that he is a colleague in Ironforge who might be able to help decrypt it for us. That gets my blood pumping again, since it's always the quests that send me across multiple regions that kick off epic narratives, which is why I naturally made a beeline for Ironforge to learn more. I find the colleague delivering the letter, and as this dwarf decrypts it, he notes it's apparently quite strange, saying I should take it back to the magistrate in South Shore immediately. I'm eager to do so, but before I do, I notice this guy, as well as a few other NPCs nearby, have even more quests for me. So I go around picking them all up, but that's when I notice I'm getting close to the cap for the amount of quests that my log can hold. This almost freaked me out a bit. I want my playthrough to be as much of a completionist playthrough as possible, where I see...
You can never do that in Classic. You can never do that in Classic because Classic wasn't unlike anything else that came after it. It wasn't linear. It wasn't a linear experience where you do all of the quests and you finish everything. It was literally just go around the world, take whatever you can, and some things are bound to be dropped. You will get gray missions, you will miss the time on that, and that's fine. Just make another character and play those missions later. It's supposed to happen. It's by design. And that was the beauty of it. That's what made World of Warcraft interesting as a second playthrough, or even a third one. You can level through Ashenvale on one playthrough, and then just skip that and maybe go to Stone Talon Mountains. You don't even have to do the Barrens. Now, most people just do, like, Barrens, right? If you're playing on a Horde side, because it's, like, so good. But you don't have to. You can skip that. And you can choose going to Ratchet, you can choose, like, there's so many options we can talk about. And it's incredible. It's fantastic.
all the great highlights that this game has to offer, but I'm also learning fast that there are way too many quests in this game for a single player to do all of them in his first playthrough. At least if you're playing blind like me, that seems like a pretty tough task. I've learned by now that WoW has a system for its quests where not only are they color-coded based on difficulty in your log, where a red quest is something you aren't the level to do, yellow means it should be a fair challenge, and green suggests you're over-leveled and it should be quite easy. But there's also a fourth color, gray, which means that you've become so over-leveled that even if you go do this now, you won't get much experience. So I figured that I should make a bit of a plan, and for the time being, I'm gonna go and try to complete the areas that I've been through already before spending too much time exploring new ones. In particular, I should just go and do all the quests I already have that sound interesting and prioritizing those yellow and green ones I find, making sure to do them before they become irrelevant. Knocking out as many as possible, if nothing else, will give me some levels so I can go and kill that Cyclonian. So naturally, the first thing I did was fly back south toward Duskwood. This is such a great zone and is the prime example of a place where I want to leave no stone unturned. I had one quest still to do in my log anyway, as well as one quest that you guys told me I should be sure not to miss. The one I already had was a somewhat simple series of kill quests for the rest of the Worgen in the area. These were some of those first given to me by the Night Watch members to prove my worth, which I continue to do. It's a fun bit of combat and even led to a little lore drop, where after completing all the tasks given to me, the original quest giver gives me a note to take to his superior. Obviously, anytime I'm given a note, I gotta read what it says, so I start searching my bags until I eventually find it. Apparently, this person believes that I've proven myself enough to a point where I should be tasked to investigate some of the townsfolk under suspicion of them being enemies of the light. That sounds really interesting. I didn't even know there was a whole subversive element to what was going on in Duskwood. But sadly, I am not given a follow-up quest, instead just being rewarded with this awesome shield. Maybe I can come back later and learn more about what that whole plotline is. For now, though, I have another task which you guys gave me to do, and I'm very glad that you did, because it led me to finding another one of my favorite quests in this game. In the responses to the last two episodes, you guys let me know I should be sure to check out some kind of grave behind Morbenfell's house for a quest that I may enjoy. Seeing as it didn't look like I had anything else left to do in Duskwood, I ran out to the Ravenhill Cemetery to search for this grave, which took a lot longer to find than I would like to admit. It's actually kind of funny. If you had not mentioned this to me, I would not have found this quest, because it's another one of those that has no marker or anything guiding me to where it begins. I finally find the grave, though, which names the burial site of Morgan Lattimore, although it appears a bit odd as the mound of earth was recently disturbed. I'm then given direction to go and speak to the historian back in Darkshire to learn more. When I arrive, I'm told that Morgan's story is a long and sorrowful tale, as many in Darkshire knew him personally before he left for the war. Hang on, that's not the war I'm thinking of, is it? This guy then gives me my next step in the quest, which I misread. I just see this book in the quest log that apparently tells the story of what happened to this dude, so I figure that he's giving me this book to read before I go speak to my next contact, the commander of the Night Watch. Also, it literally says in the first line of the quest that he's searching through his shelves and then comes up with a leather-bound book. I assumed he was giving it to me, but it turns out the quest is to go speak to the commander, who will give me this book as a reward. I somehow completely missed this, though, and don't realize it until I spend a long period of time searching through my inventory trying to find a book that isn't there. But in my search, flipping through every
the inventory management
parchment that I see,
it's crazy.
I finally managed to find the instructions! The list of how to get all the items I need for
God
Bothra
bless
and
him.
summoning the Cyclonian. This was such a pleasant surprise that brought a smile to my face, although that's obviously going to have to be on the back burner for a bit, as we have more important things to do first. After a while, I realized my mistake and go out to speak with the commander, where she says that Morgan Lattimore is synonymous with Mor Ladim, who I have already come across once before, a haunting specter that roams around the Ravenhill Cemetery. The commander asks that I lay him to rest, as he's apparently been causing a lot of problems for the town. But before I do that, I have to read the story she shares.
There it is.
Morgan Lattimore was a great and noble knight who fought in defense of the innocent, the poor, and the afflicted.
I actually don't remember
For many years,
that.
he worked diligently throughout the areas of Azeroth. He was married to a young girl named Lys in the summer of his 18th year. They
Oh,
were
wait,
much
no,
in
I do.
love and
I
would
do. I
eventually
remembered.
produce 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. Then, Morgan was 32 when war broke out in Lordaeron. He was called to the side of the legendary paladin Uther the Lightbringer to fight against the orcs and undead, leaving his wife and children in the safety of his home. As the years passed and the war dragged on, Morgan would witness many horrific events, including the disbanding of the paladins, the death of Uther, and the spread of the plague. The only thing that kept him from the brink of madness was the knowledge he would someday be reunited with his wife and children. As Morgan returned home many years later, he inquired on the whereabouts of his family. A priest said he might search the cemetery for a gravestone. Morgan rode from Darkshire, stopping by the cemetery. He spent 2 hours walking among the gravestones, recognizing many names of people he knew. Then he saw them, a small untended plot amongst the many with 3 small gravestones. Morgan brushed off the dust of the most prominent, revealing the letters that spelled out, Lys Lattimore, beloved wife and mother. For hours, he stared at the grave, sobbing apologies. Then hours later, something in him snapped. He brought out his sword and began to rain blows on the gravestones, screaming in rage. As a trio of the cemetery's attendants tried to restrain him, he turned his focus, hurling accusations of guilt before killing them all. Later, when the rage passed and he saw his bloody sword, he removed his belt knife and plunged it into his own heart. The next day, he was quickly buried without ceremony in a hastily dug grave on the outskirts of Raven Hill. Only days later, his grave was disturbed and his body could not be found. The being Morgan now is wanders Duskwood, consumed by his grief over the loss of his wife and children and his own self-hatred. Morladim, as he now calls himself, roams Duskwood with mindless vengeance and has been known to commit murder indiscriminately. Okay, I don't know why that last line sounds a little funny, but
oh my god, that's such a great story. And this was the beauty of WoW too. I mean, I know I'm saying this so many times, but like, these stories is what made the MMO great. You weren't this ginormous hero, you weren't the savior of Azeroth, you were just a regular guy helping the average Joe make it in life. And you know what's funny? The stories that were being told by these people or of these people were way better than whatever the hell we got nowadays. 10 times better, because they felt real, they felt impactful. Even if they didn't impact the story overall, they didn't, like, I don't know, like summon Gul'dan from the dead or something like that. It was fine. It was good. I think for that same reason is that why people love Skyrim so much. It's because of those small stories you get to engage with. Even though you're technically like the Dragon Warrior, right? But, you know, maybe not the best example, but you know what I'm saying. It's crazy good, man. I really wish Blizzard would return to such stories, but I know that their current company, filled with Labubu millennials, are incapable of writing anything as good.
Holy hell, and I thought this game couldn't get any better. Duskwood continues to be the most metal zone of anything I've seen, not just in WoW, but in gaming at large.
It is. I always said it was number one.
The one issue that I've had with this game, as I was just saying earlier, one of the few criticisms I had left was that WoW didn't have enough references or follow-ups to Warcraft 3's great narrative, but now I'm getting so much of it. Seeing specific reference to the Scourge starting the war and Arthas disbanding the Paladins and slaying Uther, it sent shivers down my spine as I read it. I had already seen Morladim once before when I was going and getting that big group of players to kill Morbent Fell as a bunch.
Yeah, he's gonna be really happy at the end game. You get a ton of references at the end game. I mean, on Nax, you literally get to see a portal to Northrend. Like, that's insane.
Guys in our group were also,
and you get to fight the man himself,
slaying Morladim
Kel'Thuzad.
At the time, he just seemed like a regular elite mob that was placed there for guys to get experience. But after hearing this backstory, I am suddenly thrown for a loop. What was otherwise a tough but simple NPC that was just roaming around now has so much character and significance, fleshing him out. God, this game is so good at that. I head back out to the Ravenhill Cemetery, finding Morladim wandering around once more. Since he's a level 35 elite and I am only 31, I'm gonna need some help to take him down, so I ask for anyone in region chat who might be able to assist. One guy shows up, a level 34 Night Elf Druid, who I'm a little suspicious if they're gonna be enough for us to take him down on our own. It looks like
Probably
he's charging in though, so I go in too, and we fight.
Actually, it's only one elite, it's fine.
I do realize we are indeed outmatched and will need some more help. As the Druid falls and Morladim starts whacking me down, I'm running off in a somewhat pathetic sight, trying to escape, convinced I'm about to die. when suddenly I get some big heals out of nowhere. At first I thought the druid revived and was healing me, but when I look over at my group to see that's not the case, it's only then I realize a random level 60 passing through just decided to help us out with our quest. I'm trying to not repeat myself too much over this series by now, but I gotta say it again. It is so incredible how many emergent gameplay moments like this occur so naturally with other strangers just as you go around playing World of Warcraft. It never gets old. With the help of our level 60 friend, we take down Morladim, and I grab his skull as proof of his demise.
And that would never happen to you in retail WoW, because you don't need help in retail WoW. You can kill elites all by yourself. That's how you go about it. There's no reason for any open world interaction. You would never experience a genuine thing such as this. And that's what frustrates me the most.
Before heading back to Darkshire.
Good old times, exactly.
Upon returning, she seems somewhat impressed that I was able to survive and actually accomplish the mission she sent me on. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Before then letting me know the final arc of the story, although Morgan's wife and 2 of his children passed away in the corruption of Duskwood, one of his daughters lived and is a current member of the Night Watch. I meet her down the road and she thanks me for laying her father to rest, asking if I can go lay a ring of hers at his grave, hoping he can know that she lived and that nobody holds him responsible for what happened. Honestly, as the father of a daughter, this little moment made me tear up a bit. I head off to the gravesite, placing the ring where this story first began, at which point I'm then treated to a scene of Morgan's spirit, now sane, grateful to hear that his daughter lives and hopeful the light can forgive him for his sins. He then bestows his sword to me as my ultimate reward, which I am very excited about. Okay, so this two-hander might actually be worse than the dual-wielded axes I had in
a two-hander with arcane damage. Man, Classic was wild.
In terms of DPS, but I want to start using it a bit because this sword is the first item I've seen that has a special attack. Occasionally, when striking enemies, it will also hit targets for 85 arcane damage on top of the regular hit. I have no clue if that's any good, but I love it when gear has unique elements like this. It makes choosing what weapon I'm using a real thought-provoking decision. Like maybe this sword will be better than my regular axes if I'm fighting an enemy with low arcane resistance, or maybe
Bro. That's so good watching a new guy playing this game talking about sword with arcane damage being good. Yeah. Like, it's just so good. This is like, oh man, I love his videos so much. They're truly the best.
Will straight up be better if I'm ever lucky enough to just get a few procs in a row. Up until now, sometimes it feels like the gear in WoW is just a series of stat buffs, which can feel nice to equip. But that vertical gameplay that people talk so much about is why if I ever get a new item that just has better stats than my old ones, the old ones become completely useless and are just vendor trash. It's so much more fun when you get to hold on to a few different items that have unique attributes or special attacks and might be better or worse in certain scenarios. But anyway, with all that being said, what a great quest. What a great reward. Classic WoW just keeps the hits coming. I think with that quest completed, I have now wrapped up all of the Duskwood specific quests, or at least I can't find any more to do now. I was considering ending the video here because we certainly met our goal of finding a great story to care about in this episode. But then I thought a little bit more and figured, you know what? We can probably do at least one more quest. Let's just keep playing a little further.
The addiction is settling in.
Continue leveling, getting closer to making progress on the Whirlwind Axe, and, you know, I might as well continue my plan of knocking out as many green quests as I can before they become irrelevant, turning gray. And I kid you not, that is the reason the next quest I chose to do was the Missing Diplomat. So this is one of those quests I grabbed in Stormwind at the start of this episode, running those errands. A boy in the city's cathedral told me a bishop asked him to approach adventurers that might be able to help with an issue, and that I should quietly head to Stormwind Keep to learn more. This quest sounded interesting since I was specifically told it's a matter of discretion, which makes me think that it's a somewhat important quest line. Anyway, now's as good a time as ever to head over where I meet with the bishop who tells me a bit more about my mission. Apparently, a diplomat was sent to Theramore to meet up with Jaina Proudmoore, although for some reason he never arrived. This bishop suspects that the Defias Brotherhood are involved, although he's not exactly sure how, and directs me to go speak with an old friend of his, Jorgen, who may be able to provide a lead. Okay, hang on, the Defias. Is this a follow-up to that whole disappointment we just ran into last episode? I head over to the Valley of Heroes goes to meet with Jorgen, eager to learn more, although I get a bit distracted because this is when I realize you can read the plaques for each one of these statues. I had no idea about that. I love how this plaque says that this Khadgar guy is presumed deceased. That's got to be Blizzard code for...
I wish he was, because you don't want to know what he turned into. You don't, the wheelchair dude, the supreme wheelchair mage. Yeah, truly Hot Wheels over there. Crazy. Imagine instead of conjuring any cool flying mechanism, you conjure a wheelchair, which is so impractical. My God, dude, I hate Blizzard.
Or he's an important figure that's gonna.
You
come
guys
back
don't
at
hate
some
him
point in the
enough.
plot. This Ilaria Windrunner too.
Oh no!
There's no way that Blizzard aren't bringing these people back. But more importantly, with this one, look, this plaque was written by Sylvanas. I'm still excited to see her again at some point. She is such a great character. Anyway, I find our contact Jorgen.
Oh God, no! Oh man. It's so hurtful to see. It just, like, he doesn't know, guys. Like, do we need to protect him or something? Like, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. That's so unfortunate. He truly does not know.
Who I'm quite jealous of, as he's doing exactly what I wish I could be right now.
Where's the jailer
we've got more
plaque?
important fish to fry. Jorgen takes our message from the bishop, reading it and agreeing to help, but not before urging secrecy once more, then giving me a sealed note to take to my old friend Elling Trius. It feels exciting to see now that I'm not even able to open and read the notes that I'm delivering to people. This is like that Abomination quest all over again. Speaking of stitches, I meet up with Elling, who tells me to go to Darkshire next, where I meet with a contact named Bacchus, who says that there has been some Defias activity going on nearby an old farmstead. I quickly head down the road, eventually finding the farm, and upon finding my way through a few Defias bandits, I come across an interesting looking chest
thank you
that
for the follow, man.
contains a mysterious docket which reads, "Our first plan has already failed. Fist was successful in switching the guard, but due to some unforeseen efforts, our target was able to flee from the scene before we could capture him. Plan 2 has been set in motion, and it was well underway before our ambush was set off in Stormwind." That doesn't sound good. I don't totally understand what's going on, but I take the docket back to Elling, eager to learn more. Elling recognizes the name Fist as referencing some Dashel Stonefist that's frequently getting into brawls in Stormwind. He then sends me over to speak with him in Old Town, and that is when I'm first directed to this really cool back alleyway that I can't believe I never noticed before. Anyway, Stonefist isn't too cooperative, so I have to beat him up quite a bit to get any information, which isn't too tough in spite of the additional thugs he calls in. I make a bit of a mistake in popping retaliation here, which means that even though I take Stonefist low enough that he calls off the fight, the thugs re-aggro me and actually chase me out of the alleyway until I run off and make them despawn. It's a game from 2004. Who cares if there's a few bugs? Anyway, I speak with Dashel, who says he knows something about what happened at that meeting in the farmstead in Duskwood, namely the, quote, guy they've got on the inside for Plan B came out of Menethil Harbor and goes by the name Slim. I take this info back to Elling, who tells me to go up to Menethil to try and track down Slim. So I take a flight up north once again, wondering what all this could be that's going on. Again, the rule in WoW has always been the more zones you see across a quest line, the bigger the story is. What could the Defias have done that is worthy of so much travel and such a sprawling narrative? I finally land in Menethil and head off to the nearby inn, where I meet up with Elling's contact Mikael, but on conversing with him, he notices somebody is eavesdropping on our conversation, and he says I should go subdue him before he escapes. Apparently, Mikael is much more observant than I am, because I cannot see who the hell he's talking about, and I just run around looking at various NPCs until suddenly my quest has failed. Upon redoing the quest, I then see the guy in question is hiding in stealth, and it is the Slim character I'm after, so I go outside to fight, only to realize he is one tough cookie. Because I popped my retaliation for the fight with Dashel, I don't have it here to deal with Slim and his ad, who end up killing me, as he is the highest level I've seen so far. So before I try again, I just go off and kill some time getting a level by going and doing a quest where I slay a bunch of undead sailors on a crashed Kultiran ship, who also cast a curse on me, turning me into an undead too? Okay, that's another great quest that I should probably talk about more, but I'm now 32, and I have retaliation retaliation back up, and I'm really curious about what's going on with this Defias mystery. I restart the quest to slay Slim once more, and third try proves to be the charm, as I manage to take him down to a point where he agrees to speak with me, spilling the beans. The Defias have kidnapped the King of Stormwind. Okay, I was not expecting that. The missing diplomat, it turns out, was not a diplomat after all, but the king of all the Alliance. He was on his way to meet with Jaina for some big reason when the Defias managed to intercept him under the orders of some mysterious benefactor. Okay, Defias, I was starting to feel like you weren't the bad guys, being cheated out of the payment for rebuilding Stormwind, but kidnapping the king? That kind of takes away some of the sympathy I had for your cause.
Why? Like, he didn't pay him. Just pay him. They would have been good. It's that, like, it's the king fault. It's not their fault. They were done dirty.
Anyway, Slim just says that
they
his job was to get an inside operative named Hendel onto the same ship as the king, and that's all he knows. Upon speaking with Mikhail, he tells me Hendel is a part of the Theramore Guard, and I head off to Theramore, eager to make somebody pay for crippling the Alliance like this. You can tell I'm becoming a real WoW player because I'm actually starting to care about the fate of the Alliance. Eventually, though, I manage to meet up with Archmage Tervosh, who lets me know that everything I've learned has also been discovered by himself and Jaina Proudmoore, who will be happy to assist me in subduing Hendel. I then head down the road to find Hendel's camp right past this tower. He is a level 35 that I need to subdue, but as he attacks me, I'm grateful to see that 2 other Alliance guards help me in subduing him, making the fight pretty much a breeze. Oddly enough, I find another timely bug where these guards then aggro onto me for some reason, which almost ruins the cutscene of seeing the Archmage and Jaina show up to take Hendel into custody. But as I'm bouncing around trying to turn in my quests and getting aggroed by these guards over and over, look, it's Hawthorne, the hunter from earlier who helped me with the syndicate.
Damn.
He shows up just in time to help de-aggro the guards and show me the way back to town. Thank you very much.
It's so cool
for
seeing
your
guys that
assistance
you were
in
playing
my
with
escape.
before.
The Archmage told me they were
It
taking
always
Hendel back
happens.
to Theramore for questioning, so I head back to find Jaina Proudmoore at the top of the central tower to draw the story to a close. She thanks me for all my help, saying that in the future she'll keep me appraised of how the situation develops, rewarding me with another kick-ass ring. And I am not making the same mistake I did last time of assuming that the story is over. I'm sure this narrative is going to continue in some future quest, and I'll get to find the King of Stormwind, solving the city's corruption problem sooner or later. But wow, what a great storyline. Classic WoW simply does not let up with its quality, no matter how long you play. Okay, one thing I gotta say real quick, I actually loved the payoff of seeing Jaina Proudmoore for the first time here in Classic, especially compared to my experience in retail. In my first retail video, you guys saw how much I geeked out over seeing her when I accidentally started the BFA campaign, because it was really exciting to see a familiar Warcraft 3 character after all these years. Here in Classic, I was a little frustrated at first, but not getting to immediately meet someone so important, and instead just hearing her referenced across all these quests. It made for one hell of a payoff when I finally did get to see her again, even if some of those rogue guards tried to ruin it with that silly bug. You know, looking back on it now, I kind of feel like the game design element of all of this is honestly genius in terms of how it best introduces someone to this MMO. I know World of Warcraft used to be considered the easy MMO when it came to old school players back in the 90s who were coming at it from EverQuest and Ultima Online and Asheron's Call. These guys would famously call WoW the Care Bear MMO because it had a lot of new player-friendly features like not losing your items on death and not needing to aim your spells. But even if Classic WoW was easier compared to some of those older MMOs...
Damn, imagine that Classic World of Warcraft was considered like easy back in the day. People were hardcore, bro. That's crazy. Nowadays, it just like World of Warcraft is considered difficult. Everything is hand-holding because the yellow paint on ladders and stairs mentality has seeped into everything. So unfortunate.
It's still a pretty complex game that has so many systems and mechanics that you need to learn.
Yeah, it's almost like it had an intelligent
MMOs,
design.
This is your first one. You could totally be thrown off, feeling overwhelmed at all of the stuff that there is for you to dive into. So honestly, with that context, it feels really smart for the game to keep players in the same starting zones for such a long period of time. Again, it was about 60 hours for me, and all of that time fighting mobs, running dungeons, dungeons, learning the basics of travel and how quests work. It was all that time that got me comfortable with how the game worked, to a point where it didn't feel all that mechanically difficult for me to suddenly traverse 2 continents and go on these massive adventures I was thrown into at level 30. I actually wonder if I got kind of lucky in picking warrior as my class, since all of this began with that.
You didn't get lucky. You were chosen by the gods. It's that simple. You instinctively chose the best class in the entire game. Well done. Some people were just born for greatness. You're one of them. Bask in the glory.
Whirlwind Axe class.
You deserved it.
That was exactly the moment when I was ready for a massive globe-trotting adventure.
And now you
I
own
hope that
it.
every class gets to have a similar experience at 30. Anyway, though, I'll save the rest of the Whirlwind Axe stuff for next time. Subscribe if you would like to see me continue my adventure and take
already
down that
have.
Cyclonian. I've seen quite a few of you skeptical in the comments of my videos about whether I'm going to stick with WoW all the way to 60. Let me just say, I'm going all the way. The journey is not stopping anytime soon. So subscribe and stay tuned for what happens next. Special shout.
Thank God. Dude, what a great video. I'm so glad this guy is popping off on World of Warcraft, and he's making such fantastic content, dude. Like, this, like, what, it was like 40-something minutes? It went like a breeze. His videos are so good. And, yeah, like, Warrior is a good pick. Warrior is always a good pick. In every single MMO, Warrior is just, like, baseline good, usually. Like, it's very difficult to mess up a Warrior, unless you're a seriously disturbed person. But yeah, like, I'm gonna leave you guys a link. Obviously, subscribe and like this guy videos. He's absolutely goated.